Okay, Dr. Dan, you want to go?
Yeah, sure. So, what do you want to talk about today? It's a big subject.
Well, we want to know. What you're learning lately. Some of the people. Maybe you could start with September of 6 years ago and tell us what we're going through on this planet. Just sort of the cosmic weather report for what life is, what's going on now, and what we might expect, and how best to move through it.
Okay, I can certainly talk about that. I've been on my sacred journey since August of 1994. I was a chiropractor practicing in Little Rock, Arkansas up until then, and had a near-death experience, a heat stroke, and a telepathic encounter with crystal light beings, and I got anointed in light, and I came back and started on my sacred path. And my path is about learning how to integrate your divinity into your shadow, is the easy way to say it. And it's by learning to live the parable of being a Christed being. When problems, worries, and concerns come into your life, the human thing to do is try to figure it out and fix it yourself, never realizing when you make that option.
Dr. Dan, I'm going to interrupt you. I think your microphone is rubbing against your clothes, so we're getting a lot of static.
No, I'm not. I don't have a microphone. I'm just talking to my speaker.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just like we was when I called you a while ago.
Okay.
Yeah, there's somebody that's not muted. That's what it is.
Somebody please mute. Yeah, we can barely hear. Oh, thank you. I think.
Okay. But anyway, like I say, the human thing to do is when you got problems, worries, concerns facing you, when you try to figure it out and fix it yourself, you never realize that when you make that option that self is actually the little you. That part of you is only 10% conscious and has no knowing, and self is always under the thumb of the negative ego. I mean, we've all heard it said that the purpose of the ego is to defend yourself. Well, that's exactly right, and its method of doing that is to seize control of your consciousness through the programming of the authority of your outer world. It started for every one of the people in your life. They program your beliefs, and then your negative ego and the defending and justifying the belief system it imposes on yourself. It doles out fear, pain, and punishment. And fear makes anxiety and worry, and pain causes depression and anger, and punishment creates suffering. And so that's the reward of taking the path of self. The other option is to learn to do what Christed beings do, and Christed beings don't go there trying to figure it out themselves. They surrender the whole 9 yards to their inner holiness to be dealt with. That is your higher power. All you have to do to pay for that in full is to yield to the will of your inner holiness. And that means follow the whispering voice and gut knowing it gives you. And thirdly, go up through your day without apprehension and worry and put yourself in touch with the power of life. It opens the door to miracles into your life, and amazing amounts of opportunity and goodness will come your way. And you see, when you live the parable of being a Christed being, you put yourself in the posture to be shown, told, and led in the moment by your inner divinity. And that part of you knows all of life and is 100% conscious. And it'll always make you look good if you follow the will of your inner holiness, and it'll always work for you. And so learning to do that is about half as hard as learning to ride a bicycle. You know, you couldn't do that when you first started trying, but if you persisted, you know, most people can ride a bicycle. Same with learning to be a practitioner of Christ consciousness. And so that's always the approach that I take. And it's led me to this point of my yellow brick road that I've been following now for 25 years. And the cutting edge of change of where I'm at today is about bringing the 6 postulates of truth back to the planet. And something that we're in dire need of is the truth. And the big picture of what's happening on the planet right now is a purging of the downfall world that started with the full moon eclipse of September of 2015 as a 6-year exodus of the downfall world out of people, out of our institutions, off the planet. And you see our last president, President Trump, his spiritual purpose, he had probably no idea, but his purpose was to purge the downfall world. And he was the perfect catalyst to purge the downfall world out of people. He's very divisive and separating, and see when you're triggered, whether you love him or hate him, loving or purging the first and second paradigms out of themselves and off the planet, and the ones that don't like him, purging the third. And those are the 3 paradigms of the downfall world that are purging off the planet. The first one is death, destruction, carnage, all the kind of crazy things we saw at the Capitol a couple of weeks ago. And then the second one is the home of our political process, robbing, stealing, cheating, and lying. And then the third one is less lethal but still negative, gossip, condemnation, criticism, self-pity, being judgmental, and things of that nature. So they're all doing a wonderful job. The problem is that when you're triggered, you're coming from your shadow, you're feeling your shadow purging, and it's always going to be about belief stuff. And when you're in belief, you can only see the little picture. And the little picture, the world is very chaotic and scary, and you see no hope for the future. But if you're in the bigger picture based on higher consciousness, you see the purpose of all this purging as being a cleansing of our being, because we cannot take this with us to the new holy order that awaits us right around the corner. We have to get through the purge. We have to get through Armageddon, the rapture, and the apocalypse, and they're all lined up. Well, the first 2 for next year, and the third one before 2025. And so we're going through a major retooling. And you see, within every person I've ever worked on is inscripted in the crystal lattice of their spirit body an ancient world that we all lived in as holy beings of the Holy O, in a 700 million year life continuum. And this is before we became human and went to the school of understanding that we call the downfall world. And it's called the downfall world because you have to check your knowing in at the door and consent to have your Trinity disassembled. And from there, you get to find your way back home, having one lesson after the next. And if you learn your lesson, you acquire understanding and move on to the next lesson. And so now it's time to harvest our understanding and to flush all of the other aspects of the downfall world down the moon portal, so it can be cleared out of this earth, humanity, and the inner earth, because those 3 things are in a trinity of oneness, and our ascension is based upon one and the other. So that's kind of where things are at right now. And what I'm doing this weekend in my teleconference group thing is bringing the 6 apostolates of truth back to the earth. And so that's kind of what's going on with what I'm doing.
Okay. Wow, that was a rapid wrap-up of all of it. Barbara, did you want to chime in and say anything?
No. Dr. Dan, thank you for being here, and I'd like him to just continue.
Well, the thing I want people to realize is that there are 177 million light workers on the planet right now, and there are those that are seeking the holy order, as all of you are. And each and every one of us has a sacred gift that is a snowflake, meaning there's no 2 that are alike, and yet they all come from the same source, as all snowflakes come from water. And, it's very important that we become the snowflake sacred gift that we possess. And it's all designed to serve others and to make the world a better place. And there's nothing that feeds your soul like doing your sacred gift. And there's no one sacred gift that's so precious that excuses them from transforming their human condition. And unlike no one else in that department, everybody has a negative ego to contend with, past lives to transform, and ancestral lineage patterns to purge out of their being. And that's what we're doing when we're having a bad day. We're purging our downfall world. And not all days are like that. Some days are glorious, and we get to feel how awesome we are. If you get to a point that you've tried figuring it out and doing it yourself long enough, had enough butt kickings through that process, that you decide that you're willing to surrender being right and for having victory over your pain and misery. And that is a magical moment. When that happens to you, you're now ready to move into mental decrees. And stating mental decrees is such a powerful way to bring into creation that which your divineness desires. And I use them all the time, and they're incredibly powerful. And for anything that you decree that is going to glorify your inner divinity and benefit all people and make loving feelings into life, if you set it into motion, the holiness of life will be compelled to make it happen. So that's right around the corner for most people, to be able to do this. And so there's going to be lots of beautiful divine functions of our being. In our completed holy order, we're all androgynes, and androgynes have 276 activities of higher consciousness that it performs on the inner web, connecting the crystal lattice of our spirit body to the holy old temples of the neutron stars, which is the holy creation of our sacred being, of our inner divinity. And so getting in connection with all of that is what's in front of everyone that is seeking the light, seeking the better way of life, and becoming free of the belief, which is the virus of the downfall. And getting back into knowing consciousness is what allows us all to come back together on what we have in common, the ability to see the bigger picture, and always to take responsibility for what we create in life. And that's a whole different world, the human shadow world of belief consciousness. And so we had to do that to acquire understanding, but that school is coming to a close, and now it's about harvesting the understanding and flushing the rest of it down the moon portal. And so we're in the last year of our purge. We just got our 8th level of consciousness in, androgyne consciousness, and that level of consciousness will purge the depths of the shadow world, and the next thing up to be purged are human institutions, and it started with our government. And it's going to be a fast and furious 2021. And then in 2022, we have the Armageddon Rapture events scheduled. They're both wonderful events that are purification processes before you can go into the holy old earth. The Armageddon event is simply the end of the world of belief consciousness, and the rapture is a redistribution of people into 8 civilizations of the new holy old earth in order to put people in their perfect environment for their continued ascension. And so they're both very beautiful and positive, and the apocalypse, it's just kind of orbiting right now. It hasn't decided when it's coming into the earth realm, but that's when people have their awakening, going from belief to knowing, and they get to perceive the illusions that they thought were true that were simply the illusion of their belief. And so we have lots of wonderful things coming to help us purify and getting back into our holy order. So we have a lot to look forward to in the next couple of years. And But the big easy button right now is to open your heart and your mind and live the parable of being a Christed being. The rest of it will happen for you automatically.
Okay. Well, for those who haven't received your little business card with the parable on it, maybe we can use a review of, these are the steps you take every morning when you wake up in order to move yourself out of the way and allow higher guidance to come in. You want to review that process for those of us who heard it and introduce the new, to people who are here for the first time. So, the parable of Christ consciousness.
Yeah. Well, the parable, there's really two parts to it. The first part is to get you acquainted with it. And the first part you state as your intention of the day. And that would normally be done in your meditation time before you get out, ready to go out and greet the world. But the one on the back of my card, this one's elaborate. But the purpose of this, if you read this every morning as your intention of the day for 2 to 3 weeks, normally, especially if when you first read it, there's a part of it that doesn't quite resonate with you. I really hope that happens, because what'll happen is if you read that for 2 or 3 weeks, your inner divinity is going to tell you how to edit that part that doesn't quite resonate with you, and you write it down exactly the way it tells you. And now you have your own organic parable. You don't need mine, and you're ready for part 2. And part 2 is not about reading a parable every morning as your intention of the day, although you can still do that if you like it. But the true purpose of this is to take your organic with you into your day with you. And if things should go south, instead of trying to figure it out and fix it yourself, you pause and do your own organic parable, and amazing things will happen. Like I'm telling you, a door to miracles will open into your life. Now, let me just read the one on the back of my card, and then I'll kind of edit it a little bit for you. But nobody's going to be able to write this down. But if you're recording, that's the best way to get this. Okay, and this was done by a wonderful friend of mine, Gracia, from Los Alamos, New Mexico, and my wife, Vicki, put this one together. Beloved Lord of my being, I call on you now as I accept all issues of disharmony in my life as my own. I forgive myself for all negative experiences, and I surrender all of my concerns and challenges to you. I yield to your loving will in my life, and now take my next step in trust without having to understand what is around the next corner. Guide me and show me the way. Hallelujah. So that's a really good one. I kind of, my first one was real short. It's really, you have to accept your stuff in order to be able to clear it. You can't blame it on other people and clear it. You have to accept it. And let me tell you this. I've never seen a person that had a problem that didn't play a part in it. So if you will clear the part of the problem you're responsible for, normally the knot will untie. It's my experience. But you have to accept your problems as your own. Don't blame them on others. And the next thing is you surrender it to your inner holiness. That is your higher power to be dealt with. You surrender it to your higher power to be dealt with. And you're integrating the most conscious, all-loving aspect of your being into your shadow when you're doing that. And that's what works. So you surrender the problems to your inner holiness. And then next, you must yield to the will of your inner holiness. You can't surrender things to your inner holiness and keep doing what you was doing that made the problem in the first place. You have to listen to what's coming, trying to tell you what to do. And that'll be a whispering voice and a gut knowing, and you may be so insensitive at first you don't pick that up, but if you seek it, you'll find it. And then the next thing, after you've yielded to the will of your inner holiness, you have to show up in your day and take your next step, trusting the divine flow of life, not predicting gloom and doom and listening to the negative news. You're getting over life yet. And so you gotta take your next step in trusting the divine flow of life. And when you tell it that you don't have to understand what's around the corner, that you're willing to do what it tells you, and you just want to be in harmony with life. And this is how you do it. And this is what integrates your divinity into your shadow and consumes it. You know, if self illuminates the shadow, that's illogical because self made the shadow. And so you can't heal problems with the same level of consciousness that made the problem. You can't heal belief problems with more beliefs or new beliefs. You have to ascend into higher consciousness. And from that ascension, you'll make a bigger picture of life that'll encompass the things that previously you couldn't get to. And all of a sudden, you'll see them in a new light and come to a higher level of understanding of things and find some new wiggle room that wasn't there before, and you'll find your way out of it. And that's how it works. It's a beautiful experience to have, but you have to have your own experience with it. So you must learn to do the parable, and then you will understand. You know, I can explain things to you, but I can't understand them for you. That's the limitation of every teacher. So that's the parable. Okay, any questions about that?
I don't have any texted. I did have one question about the downfall that started September 2015, and as a fall, it's supposed to end in September of this year. Any thoughts about what we can notice as life goes on up till September and maybe after? Do you have any insight on that?
Well, you got an excuse for all the bad stuff that happens between now and then, that it's the purging downfall world. And that's the angle I always take on things, because that allows it to be understood. And that means you're in the bigger picture. If you can't understand that, then you're in the little picture. And that's where life is miserable and you get lost and you're in fear. So you want to avoid that. And so you have to stay in the bigger picture, and that comes from living the parable and some knowing out of that, which is what happens when you do that. So it's a beautiful experience to have, but this is stuff that each person has to experience. It won't work reading it in a book. It has to be applied in life.
Yeah. Sometimes I think of the metaphor of what we're going through now. It's like when I want to clean my closet out, and usually that takes at least a half a day. And when I drag everything out, after a couple of hours, it looks like a really big mess, and I want to say, why did I start doing this? But if I can remember, this is simply what this process looks like. And there's a great thought that I got from Access Training. It said, or maybe it was Wisdom Course, but this is what life looks like when it's working. I don't have a high enough perspective to see the whole jigsaw puzzle here. I'm only seeing this little piece I'm working on and the mess I have here. But if I can rise up and just know that even though I can't see it all, this is what it looks like. And if I'll just keep putting one foot in front of the other and just take care of my own part, ultimately I'm going to have a really organized closet. So that's what comes to mind for me on that.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Oh. Yeah. We just got a question. What role do you feel the new president plays now?
Well, government is going to be in the new holy old earth. It'll start at the sixth paradigm, and that's where government is going to, the political process, and so Trump did his part. He purged a lot of stuff, and maybe because he was all down for it, but he certainly seemed to be able to get people to purge, and that's exactly what was needed. And so now it's time to go back the other way and start allowing the purge. I mean, they're still going to roll. I mean, this is like stopping a train. It takes a while. And so hopefully by September, it'll pretty much, be in a good place. But it could also be the worst part could be what's ahead of us here. So it's really important to stay in the bigger picture. And if you have to, you just have to go within and just cut out all of the talking heads and stuff out there in the outer world, and just be in your inner peace. That's a good way to get through this. And you need to have a lot of time out in nature and have a kind and loving heart. That there's nothing that can substitute for that. And you want to ride the wave of the divine. And in the natural world, it's not like man's world. Man's world, it doesn't happen unless you make it happen and trying hard and taking pride in your work, and all of that is what it takes to be successful in man's world. But in the natural world, it's totally not like that at all. And in the natural world, the intelligence that makes it happen comes included, and what's in question is you being in harmony with that intelligence. But it's like growing a vegetable garden. You don't have to know what the seed knows, but you do need to know when to plant, how to plant, and how to take care of a plant. You can go get a PhD in photosynthesis if you want, but you'll be served a lot better if you've got a green thumb and you know how to harmonize with that process. Well, healing, ascension, all of these subjects of our being are of the natural world, and that's what makes it go round. You have to know how to connect and be in harmony. It's not about you dictating and being a genius and knowing how to make it all work in your head. That'll get you in trouble. So you need to know how to surrender, yield, and trust, and how to be in harmony with what you're dealing with. And the divineness of life is very loving and kind. You get all the chances you need to get it right. And, what's in question is you seeking. And that's what's required. You must seek to find. And you can't pay somebody to do that for you. And you always want to try harder than the people you're getting the help you're trying. If you're not getting the big benefit out of it. People can't do it for you. You've got to be seeking. Then you'll find it. Hey, that's all I got to say about that.
Okay, if you have questions, you can text them to me at 713-622-8900. 622-8900.
Linda?
Yes.
Is there a recording number to this recording?
Yes, I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you later.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's very interesting, and I'm going to listen to the recording over and get a better understanding of it. And I thank you for your presentation.
Well, you're very welcome. Very honored to serve and to share.
So the real abbreviated form of how we get through this is that we turn off our mini brain attachment to figuring things out and solving problems, we move that aside and we get quiet and check in every day and get our direction from a higher level. And then follow that. Just there's a term in ontology called unfoldment. It's where beingness simply drops down and directs you through the day. So we just start out just simply doing what we're inspired to do, and then if we hit the rocks during the day, take a deep breath and go back and ask again, see what comes up for that. Oh, good. We got some questions here. Here's one. Assuming babies born in this time are coming to help with changes, I guess that just a comment. Assuming that. Should we go about life as usual or make any preparations for these things? Great question.
Well, you can go buy you some toilet paper and beanie weenies or whatever, but the best preparation is spent within, and healing your inner being, healing your human condition, and how you do that is, when something is broken, to make it whole again, it's got to become part of something bigger. And the little us is the human shadow world part of us, and that's where our problems come from. And to make those aspects of our being whole again, they have to become a part of a bigger picture, and that bigger picture is the inscriptions of the holy world that you came from before you became human. That world has got a much larger matrix outlay, and it can consume all the fragmentations of this universe, and it can become a whole again as it becomes a part of the 9 clusters of the all that is of the Holy O. And that's your divine matrix. And when you were in your divine matrix, as you was in the ancient world, all was well. And see, your unconscious beneath your subconscious is what connects you to the 9 clusters of the all that is of the Holy O in your holy order. But that all got blown up at the Big Bang when a tenth of this universe was fractured off to become the universe to house the human downfall world. All of us got disconnected from our inner divinity when that happened. And that's when we started thinking God was outside of us, somewhere besides within us, and that's what made our shadow. And we lost our knowing consciousness from our inner divinity. The only place in life that you can get knowing is from your inner divinity. And we lost it at the Big Bang, and then the human downfall world is about not having knowing and then having the components of your Trinity disassembled. So that's what the human downfall world is. But thanks the Lord, all of us have the records of that original holy order inscripted in the crystal lattice of our Holy Spirit. And it's from those records that we can recreate the fracturing of our human experience back into the wholeness of our original divine expression. And it'll just lift right off of you. It's really amazing. And my hope is that as we continue into these realms of higher consciousness, 177 million light workers are going to know how to do that through the sacred gifts that they do. And people can live in the bigger picture of life as a result of these divine consciousness being integrated into the hard drive of the earth grid and stay out of the chaos. If you can see the bigger picture, it's a lot more, you can get through this with dignity and grace. It does not have to be a belly flop and pain and misery. That's only if you're in belief. And You try to figure it out and do it yourself. You have to learn to do the parable, and every single person can do it. If you can ride a bike, it's about half as hard. So it's just a matter of getting your head working differently.
Yeah, we were all trained that if we went to school and we learned and we got degrees and we listened to what other more educated people told us, then we developed knowledge. But what I hear you saying is that the real source of knowledge is our inner holiness. It's not external to us.
Right, and that stuff you're talking about is understanding. You get understanding from academia and having experiences in life. Knowledge only comes from your inner holiness, and then all the rest of it is hearsay from the outer. That's belief. And see, that's really the dangerous thing in life is belief consciousness, because it's always governed by the negative ego. And if you do the anatomy on belief, what you discover is that it's our opinion about the parts of life we have no knowing or understanding of. Nobody knows or understands about heaven and hell and reincarnation, but people certainly have beliefs about it. And because beliefs are governed by the negative ego, it does fear, pain, and punishment, it's dangerous. And in the collective, it's a mob. And it's craziness. And nobody seems to notice, but the root word of belief is right in the middle of it. It's lying. And, our opinions about what we have no knowing or understanding of, not by chance that's going to be accurate. And see, absolute truth is the 33rd paradigm. Well, that's a long ways off from the first, second, and third paradigms of the human downfall world of belief consciousness. See, that's what we're purging. And any perception of truth down there in the first, second, and third paradigms is nothing more than an illusion of our ego's belief. And it's not the absolute truth. And it may be the popular answer, what most people believe, but once again, it's, any one person, I'm definitely in this category, I know a sliver of life. And if you get outside of that, there's some areas of life that I have some experience with, that I'll have some understanding of, but by and large, anything outside of my area of expertise, I don't know about that. Well, if you take my opinion about that stuff, you're taking my belief, see? And you can't get anywhere like that. It just doesn't work. And see, belief consciousness causes people to separate because of differences. Well, look at man's world. Look at all the different religions we got. Why is that? Well, people have different beliefs. Why is there all these denominations of Christianity? Once again, people have different beliefs, And so the world is based on differences, and that's a product of belief consciousness. And so to transform from belief to knowing, there's a bridge of trust that you have to take. You have to trust in the divine flow of life, and that which you believe will vanish and will be replaced by the knowing of your inner holiness. And coming out of the human downfall world into this, we have a lot of fracturing and stuff that has to be corrected in order for these divine things to function in us once again. And so that's the purpose of, being on a sacred path. And one of my greatest joys is doing my thing for people, and then they start doing what they're supposed to be doing. And their sacred gifts unfold and open up, and the more you trust in your inner holiness, the more your inner holiness trusts in you, and the more unfolds and opens up, and the faster you go. So it's really an amazing world that we live in. A lot more is capable of people than used to be, but we're still learning to overcome the carnage that we carry. Because see, everybody comes to this life with a loaded gun from their lineage patterns and past lives, and then your life traumas like 2020 and 2021, man, did it pull triggers in people. And it pulls the trigger on that loaded gun, and all of this stuff comes into your now. That's a heavy-weighted response over what you've just experienced. It's a lot more to it than what you just experienced. And I'm taking things out of people from the dawn of time, the Civil War, World War I and II, and it's all because of what they're seeing in 2020 and 2021. You know, it's pulling all of this crap out of their unconscious. It's dumping carnage into the components of the Trinity primarily. And all of that stuff has to be cleaned up. And then you're fine. You get over that, you get cleared, you get reset, and you feel a lot better. And so, you know, getting the right workers to help you when you get stuck is a very important thing. Because we want to minimize everyone's suffering and get everybody to be functional in their divine expression. That's kind of the goal.
Okay, I have a couple of questions here. Do you want to handle these?
Okay.
First one is this a time when our thoughts are manifesting faster than ever? I quietly forgave a mean person in my heart, and out of the blue, she immediately called to invite me for dinner.
Wonderful. Well, you know, there's a law of life about forgiveness, and absolute forgiveness will consume all unforgiveness out of your life that blocks goodness out of your life. That's what unforgiveness does, is it blocks goodness out of your life. And you just demonstrated it. You forgave, it removed that block, and you got a beautiful thing to happen for you. And congratulations, that's a beautiful discovery. But that's the reason to forgive completely, is that unforgiveness will block goodness out of your life. And so that's a wonderful lesson to learn there.
I wonder, if the more you forgive, the cleaner your clock gets, but the faster it will come back to you. It seems like it has less material to move through.
Yeah, I think you're right about that.
That might be. Okay, here's another question. The new babies, do they come in with more knowing? I'm going to talk about these new children who are being born lately. How are they same or different?
Well, in the bigger picture of life, there's purpose for everything that's happening, and the purpose of life on this planet is ascension. So it would stand to reason that the new kids coming in are going to have greater capabilities, and see, the programming you get as a child is what, programs your beliefs, and the big people in your life that you hold in esteem, you accept things about them that become a part of your own. That's how we do things. And the more pure of heart people are, the more pure of heart their child is going to be. And I think that everything, I know the line is long to get on the planet because ascension is everybody and everything wants to ascend. No matter how dark of a shadow it has, it always wants to ascend. And because of that, the line to get here is long, and so I take it as all being a good thing. So I think the children are amazing. I really do.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have a granddaughter that's 7, and she's just beyond the beyond, but her parents are too, and so that really matters. If you've got really good-hearted, open-minded parents that are in tune with their divinity, they raise great kids. So there's some of that going on. I love to see that kind of thing. Okay.
I wanted to give my my text number one more time. It's 713-622-8900. And unfortunately, I can't give you the recording number right now because I can't access it while I'm on the phone. Maybe let me try one other thing.
Oops, sorry.
Okay. So anyhow, if you will text me, I will be able to send you the recording number if you would like it. And Dr. Dan, do we want to do this again next week, or what are your thoughts on moving on here?
Yeah. Let's see. Let me look at my book over here. And my phone's been going crazy the whole time I've been on this. I've got about 50 smells. So, anyway, that'll be the 28th. That's a full moon. Yeah, put me down for 10 o'clock. I can do it.
10 a.m. Okay.
10 o'clock on what day?
Thursday.
Thursday, the 28th, right?
Yeah.
January 28th.
Okay.
May I interject here? I wanted to say something that I was trying to text you a minute ago, and when I opened it to do it, I just got notices for text messages. I recently, 2 nights ago, I had a private personal session with Dr. Dan. It was scheduled. It's done online, and he has a surrogate. And it's just the same way he does a personal if you're in person with him. And for people that don't know this, I'm just giving some background. But what I always am amazed about every time I do a personal session with him, it seems to uncover and heal something more. And I'm always amazed that. And then I process. I have to go through the process of it, which is not difficult at all. But I notice that I'm getting more awarenesses of things that I have to work with, and that is the most valuable because then I'm able to use my meditation, prayer, my what I've been using for years, but it works. I have a tool. And when things come up for me, then I know where to take them. And it's amazing. Absolutely amazing work.
Love you, Barbara. Yep.
Who is that?
Okay. I wanted, Dr. Dan, can you give the website where people can go for further information or to give us where they can go to get on your list so they can find out about these the blessings that you're doing twice a month?
Yeah. Well, I wish I had my wife here to answer that because I'm kind of I'm really poor when it comes to technology, but I do have a website. I've been having some issues with it. It's called holydivinehealing.com. And there's an Instagram blog type thing on there that you go on, and it has the group healing information. And there's a place on there that if you sign up and then go down to the little box and verify your sign up so it doesn't go into your spam, you will get my bi-weekly little letters that I put out explaining what's going to be happening in the group healings. And normally I have 2 a month. They're at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Sunday afternoon, and that's Central. And so that's how we do that.